Yo, what's up, droners? And before we jump into today's droner dialogue, I'd like to say that we are doing a dope drone giveaway. I know you guys like the shirts, and we're also doing a giveaway of the Flifli flying drop system that I did the drone darts video on, which is awesome because you can drop stuff from your drone. So I'm doing that in collaboration with John from DroneOne Media. He's awesome. His channel's awesome. Check it out. And pretty much all you got to do is hit, comment subscribe in this video, subscribe to his channel, and then just literally hit up one of our social media channels, his or mine. Mine is @DronerOfficial, and just say subscribe in one of those comments too. And you will be entered into the contest to win either a t-shirt or the Flifli system, which is worth $250. So why not?
Droner.
Droners, welcome to another edition of Droner Dialogue. I'm like super honored and happy that you guys actually are enjoying these as much as I'm enjoying making them. So let's keep it rolling. And today's story that we're going to talk about is the weird kind of calls that you get as a professional drone pilot for requests for things that don't even really make sense, or you don't really understand what you're getting into. So we'll just jump right into it. So a couple weeks ago, I get a phone call from a producer who's just like, "Hey, I got your contact because I hear you're the drone guy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the drone guy." So she asked me, could I fly tomorrow? And of course, in my mind, I'm like, probably not. I mean, honestly, like, I can't get a permit. I live in LA. This is an LA-based production they're talking about. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to get a permit within 24 hours, less than 24 hours. And it's probably not gonna happen. So I was just like, well, just tell me more, because, you know, people really don't know. They really don't know what the drone laws are and stuff. And everybody has different assumptions in their head of what drones are, what they can do, and what it takes to be able to do those things with drones. So, you know, you always got to be really cautious when somebody asks you to do something. Like, you have to, normally my experience, the best way to go is just before you tell them anything about what drones can and can't do, just keep asking them questions. And that's what I did. I said, okay, well, tell me about this. What is this? She's like, okay, yeah, we're working on a television show for a major comedian, and they want to have a drone be a part of one of the sketches that we're going to be having for this comedic show. I'm like, okay, and so you're not wanting drone footage? She's like, no, we want the drone to be on camera. I'm like, okay, so the drone is a prop now. All right, that's a little weird and different. That's a new call. All right, so where are we flying? She's like, okay, yeah, so we're going to be flying on private property. I'm like, that's nice, cool. In Hollywood. I'm like, in Hollywood on private property? Like, nah, we're gonna have to probably need a permit to be able to fly. But so yeah, she said it's on private property, just assuming that of course that means that everything's okay, I can do whatever I want. But come on now, we're in Hollywood. So, you know, I've actually flown on private property downtown LA and in Hollywood before, and had to get film permits to be able to do that through Film LA, and they still would send out a fire safety advisor dude, FSA is what they call them, to be standing next to me and my team while we film, and they don't really do anything. It's just, it feels like a money grab. But either way, it's confusing to know what you should and shouldn't do when it comes to situations like this. And since this one was so quickly coming upon us, Anna was flying indoors because she was like, no, it's private property, literally inside of a parking garage. I was like, I don't feel like anybody else really needs to be involved. I'm fully insured, and I'm like, it should be good. And she's like, well, how much will it cost? And I just threw a number out there expecting her to say no. And then she was like, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, well, I guess I'm flying. You know, like, well, I guess we out here, right? But then I get like, we have that phone call, we get off the call, and then she sends me a picture of the parking garage, and it looks like there's like no space in there at all. And she also asked me to send her a picture of the drone. So flying indoors, I was like, well, let me just send her a picture of the Mavic, because, you know, I have pretty much every kind of drone you could want, but for this one, it's just gonna be me. It's only gonna be on camera, and it's supposed to be like a surveillance looking drone. So I was like, a Mavic will look just fine. So I sent her a picture of the Mavic. They've loved it. They're like, perfect. And I was just like, yo, like, how high are these ceilings on this parking garage? Because like they sent me a picture and it didn't look like the cars were here and the garage top was here. And I'm like, these cars are like regular sized cars. These aren't SUVs. So I was like, okay, it doesn't look like there's not much space. And, you know, as a person who has crashed drones before, I'm quite terrified of doing that again because it's expensive and a long process. Check out my DJI repair videos. You'll learn how that goes. So either way, I was like, all right. I started to you know, I shouldn't say freak out a little bit. I was just trying to figure out what's the best way to get this client the best product for what they're doing. So what I thought about was like, well, if they want to see like a wide shot of a drone flying in somewhere and then out of somewhere, and I was thinking they might want to fly out of the parking garage or something. I didn't know because they didn't know their own creative. Yeah, so the person who knew the creative was not the person talking to me. They sent the production manager who's just like, I'm the person who hire people, not the person who knows exactly what they're hiring the person for. And the person that was hiring me that knew the creative wasn't available ever. The guy just didn't talk. So she's like, we know we need you here. I just don't know exactly what you're supposed to do. So for me, I'm like, all right, well, imagining the worst case scenario, I was like, I'm probably not the best pilot in the world to fly indoors because I don't do that very much. I've done it a few times, but not in tight spaces like this. I've done warehouse flying and all that. I'm confident in my abilities, but I don't know what they want. So I was like, well, let me bring in a ringer, you know, as you guys may have seen back in my previous videos, there's a professional drone pilot that I've worked with before. His name's Richard. He's the truth. He's one of the top 25 drone racers in the world, and that's what they do. They fly in tight spaces and fly indoors and stuff. So I hit him up and was like, yo, like, let me see if I can get you on this gig with me. I'll just split the money with you. He doesn't have his Part 107, so I was like, I'll be the pilot in command. You can get paid, literally show up. It's in your home. Like, he lives in Hollywood, so it's like right next to him. So I was like, dude, it'll be a couple hours in the morning right next to you. He's like, I'm down. So then I send him pictures of his drone that he would fly, because he doesn't know how to fly the Mavic. All he flies racing drones. And they were like, no, we don't like those. They look like toys. And I'm like, no. I'm like, whatever. She's like, nah, man, we want the one you sent us originally. Just show up. I'm like, I'm sorry, Richard. It's not gonna happen. He's like, it's cool. So I show up the morning of. I show up. They have me show up at 9 a.m. I show up. Nobody's there. I'm like, awesome. I get there, and then the lady comes and finds me, and they're like, cool, here's where we're gonna be filming. We walk down there, and it ended up being 9 feet ceilings in the parking garage. So I was like, okay, I'm good. I can fly in 9 feet. But then they had all kind of like C-stands and like flags up everywhere. And they're like, yeah, this is where we want you to fly, like right next to all the flags and C-stands. And like people like standing there. I'm like, look, I'm not flying over anybody's head. I'm not allowed to do that. And what exactly we were doing, still didn't know. Still didn't know. So while we're waiting to find out, I pull out the Mavic. I was like, let me just play around with it before they start filming. It flew really, really well indoors. I put it into, what's it called? I put it in tripod mode to make it move slow because we're in a tight space. Beautiful thing to do. Great idea, by the way. I feel like I was smart. But put it into that mode. It flew around perfectly. I got all my adjustments good. We're good. And then the guy finally shows up. Yeah, here's what I want you to do. You see that chair right there? All right, you see this frame of this camera right here? I want the drone to be behind him, and then I want it to not be behind him. I'm like, literally, you just wanted to sit there and just move out of the frame? Yeah, that's it. I'm like, no problem. So I have to, but we want to do it at the end of the day. I'm like, but why'd you all call me here at 9 o'clock in the morning when it's like, no, cool. So I literally had to sit there for like 4 hours and watch them film this comedian talking to these people. And then like at the end of it, they're like, okay, cool. Let's do the pickup shot with the drone. And it was literally me just pulling the drone up, moving it over, and then moving it back over. And of course, nothing goes as planned. I ended up doing it and killing it. But the problem was that for some reason on the second flight, the Mavic was having trouble locating where it was. So it just started drifting because we're inside. It doesn't have GPS lock, obviously. We're inside our parking garage. So it just started drifting in tripod mode, which I didn't know is a real issue. If you're in tripod mode and it starts drifting, it starts to drift nearly as fast as you can move it. So I was literally fighting to counter it, looking at the frame of their thing and trying not to hit the comedian person in the head with it all at the same time. They didn't know I was struggling with it. But either way, I was able to pull it off. It went really well. And I guess the lesson here would be is like, always try to talk to the creative person ahead of time, because it can get pretty messy if you don't know what's going to happen, because it could have been them asking for me to do something that I wasn't willing to do. But always make sure you cover their expectations by telling them like, hey, if I feel like something's dangerous or out of the pocket of what you told me I'm going to be doing, then I may say no, but you still have to pay me, and you get the contract and send it to them and all that. I did all that. So just make sure you guys manage your clients' expectations whenever they call you asking for something and they don't know fully what they want. Make sure that they understand if they don't know exactly what they want, then you can't agree to doing everything up front, so that when you say no to something that they won't be surprised, because they are the ones who didn't inform you of what they'd be asking you to do. Never overestimate the power of stupidity when it comes to people when they're asking you to do drone stuff. Like, pretty much always assume they don't know anything and they don't know what they're talking about, because you can end up in a tragic situation, like a story I'm gonna tell you guys on a future one about a nighttime flight that I was asked to do that was just ended tragically, but I covered myself and ended up being okay. But this is a great example of how ignorance around drones can affect you as a professional drone pilot. Droners, thank you for listening to this Droner Dialogue, and if anybody else has any similar stories to this, let me know, because I felt like this one was kind of weird. Even though I've had it happen a couple times like this, I still like to hear about your guys' stories as well. So let me know what you think. As always, there's more Droner Dialogue right here because you guys have asked for it. So now we have multiple Droner Dialogue videos. Check them out. They're awesome. Or you can go ahead and click here and see the coolest opening video for a YouTube drone page ever. It really is dope. And as always, make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button to allow us to do what we're doing, and stay fly.